Hi, this time I wanted to talk about how to identify when there is too much exposition in a tabletop role playing game. And just a heads up, I am waiting for a package, so maybe I will be interrupted during this video. In that case, I will just pause the camera, the microphone, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, in my opinion, excessive exposition, can ruin some tabletop RPG sessions, even those that actually attempt to roleplay. If there is too much exposition, it's quite terrible. It's as if the players and the game master have attended this session in order to listen or to give a history lecture. And so, yes, nobody wants an info dump. Any information related to the session should be communicated, related to the game world, to the anything within an encounter and such, should be communicated as spoonfuls throughout the entire session, rather than having the players or the game master drink the whole bottle during each instance of an encounter. The important thing to understand about exposition is that you want to give the essential information. It's the essential information communicated with some flourishes or decoration. The typical case of the sculpture trying to create the statue, you are removing that which is not essential. So imagine this. You are playing in a science fantasy Wild West setting. You have just arrived to the small town of Cow Skull. There is a lot of wind all over the place, pushing and moving around dust and dirt. Some of it gets into your eyes and nose. Before you, the road looks quite simple. There are a few people standing there, carrying out their own businesses. To your right, there are several wooden structures. One of such buildings is probably the saloon. It is a two-story building, and in the second floor, you can see a few buxom ladies waving at you. It's probably a brothel as well. To your left, there are several houses, buildings, but you can clearly see the colorful sign of a barber shop. That's it. You don't need to add anything else. Perhaps you could also mention the sun. In Wild West battles, the positioning of the sun is quite important. You want the sun to be at your back so that the opponent has a difficult time trying to look at you. The sun gets into the opponent's eyes. It's very difficult to aim. Perhaps you could add that, but if you start to mention the way that the ladies in the second floor are dressed with all sorts of frills and how some of them are winking at you and how some of them are poking their lips, their mouth, perhaps some of them are walking around in a particular way, if it's not essential, you shouldn't communicate that. Just by listening to me trying to explain that awful example, that this awful way of running that exposition, I can tell that you probably got a bit bored because it was not essential. When it comes to the barber shop sign, you should also just describe that the barber shop sign. In fact, the players are going to benefit from that direct, not particularly detailed description, because now they can paint their own picture in their minds. Each player is going to present the most vivid image of that particular or specific barber sign. If you start to talk about how you can see a scorpion walking around the road or some sort of snake slithering about, and it's not essential, I think that is too much. You are giving information for the players to work with that information. If in the case of the brothel, there is perhaps potential job opportunities, not that the player characters are going to work in the brothel directly, but maybe you could mention that the way that the women are dressed, they look quite poor. The clothes are covered in patches. They look quite, yes, like worn clothing and such. That could be give the players some ideas, like, oh, maybe they want to promote their brothel, we can like strike a deal with them and tell them that we are moving around the area, visiting different towns and cities, and mention how the most beautiful women in all of this area are found in this brothel. So you can see that's somewhat essential for some money earning opportunities. Don't overwhelm the players with unnecessary flourishes. If you have to communicate that there is a building here, there is a sign here, there are non-player characters there, some details about it, consider that those flourishes, those colorful details attached to the essential information. If you start to build details upon details upon details that are not essential, that's like taking a cake and putting frost on top of the frost on top of the frost. Or in my case, I like honey. It would be like adding too much honey to my fruit bowl or plate. You want to add honey to the fruit, not a bit of fruit to the honey. In the case of the players, as they are describing their actions, the actions of the player characters, they should also keep this in mind, the essential. It's fine, for example, if you are playing a horror scenario and you say something like, with great hesitation and trembling, I opened the door to the closet. And then the game master could describe that there is this burlap sack within, stained in red. It appears to be blood. The player could describe, I swallow hard and I approach the burlap sack. I take it with my hand. And the game master could say, the sack feels considerably heavy and you can hear some sloshing within it. So you can see the player is describing some details about what the character is doing, giving a vivid picture of the scene. But you don't want to start to talk about the character's mental process for a long while and how the character has experienced this or that, or it's not essential for that particular moment. If you are performing a sort of idea role or knowledge role or something like that, an example of this in my actual play, please check it out in the description. C4 Crispy was trying to obtain information about dark elves. He was thinking back at those fairy tales that his mother used to tell him when he was little. Perfect example. That's essential for the moment, for the instance within that encounter. So I hope these tips were useful, perhaps entertaining. Let me know your own thoughts on this, on excessive exposition. What do you consider to be too much? Just to give you a small summarize, to summarize this information, you just need the essentials. You can add your flourishes, your colors, your decorative narrations, but those details must be directly attached to the essential information communicated. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any other comments or questions, please let me know. As always, thank you for your likes and your comments. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support this channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you, and see you later.